Hello, welcome to the Women and Money video series from Fidelity International in conjunction with What Investment. My name is Stephanie Spicer. I'm going to be talking today with Emily Montgomery, who is Associate Director of Personal Investing at Fidelity International. Emily, hi.
Hi, Stephanie. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you as well. Now, women and money, I'll let you take over in a moment because you know all about this, but why are we talking women and money? Because we have this generational issue, if not several generation of issues of women not saving enough for their pensions and their retirement. There is much talk about the gender pay gap. We've got the gender pensions gap, the wealth gap, and clearly we've given it away already. No guesses as to who's falling foul of the gap. Just for us, this session that we're talking on today, talking about where do we start in terms of solving the problem and getting in the right disciplines. Is there can you be too young to start? And when we say too young to start investing, what are we talking about? Are we talking about perhaps investing when our children are children?
Yeah. In a word, I would say no. You can never be too young to start investing. And especially for women, because like you've already mentioned, there is the big, there's so many big gaps. There's big gaps in pensions, in pay, and, so many different areas of women's finances, right down to the level of savings that women tend to have. So no, I think as a woman, especially, you're never ever too young to start saving. And really the message is that all young women, or women of any age as well, whatever age they are now, it's never too late either. We should start really focusing on what savings they've got, what sort of plans and provisions they've got for their own financial security going forwards, not just for the very long term either, but also for the medium term as well. Because as we are in the current climate, we've seen that life can throw real kind of curveballs, and being unprepared financially, really leaves you a lot of disadvantages and makes life very precarious. So obviously, all women really need to start tackling their finances as soon as they possibly can do.
And if we were to look at, as mothers and as grandmothers, can we look at children and go, okay, well, we could actually start a discipline there? Apart from perhaps looking at our own circumstances, we could look at saving for children. Are there ways in which parents and grandparents can do that? What kind of things can they do, and what kind of money amounts can we accrue for them, so that if you got a child that got to 16 or 18, they've got a nice little pot for them to self-focused on and then build on. But what ways can they go about doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. The idea of actually saving as soon as a child is born is perfect. You can really set your child up then, or your grandchild up then, to be very financially secure later on. Things like a junior ISA, or as a child trust fund for children who are born earlier. But junior ISAs now tend to be provided for children who have been born sort of in the last decade or so now. And you can save as little as £50 a month. And the figures show that if you actually do start saving as soon as a baby is born, then by the time they're 18, when the junior ISA actually goes into their hands, as it were, and they take ownership of it, they can have a really substantial amount of money, enough to sort of set them up maybe to get a step on the property ladder, or something less like buying a car, or even for something like a gap year, or just to pay for college or university fees. So yeah, if parents and grandparents can, and indeed anybody else who wants to, can actually chip in and add to the junior ISA as well, it's a really, really good way of encouraging that savings habit. And I think as children get older as well, if you can sort of start to pique their interest, start to get them into that savings habit, and sort of see how the money is really growing nicely, that might just get them interested. Maybe even start getting them interested in maybe some of the funds you're investing in the ISA for them as well, just to sort of give them a taste of if you start investing, it doesn't have to be huge amounts, small amounts over time have got this amazing snowball effect that really makes a difference.
And then one would hope perhaps when they get to 16, 18, they don't blow it all in one go, but or again, as you say, if they're using it for university fees, that it's money well spent. But then if they start saving in their own right, how do we persuade a young woman who's thinking, well, if you're talking about my pension and that's so long ago, how do you encourage them to start, if they're starting to work, or let's perhaps be realistic, if they're students, maybe it's not so easy to save, but if somebody's just starting work, how do you persuade them that they do need to be making saving, even if it's just sort of a small amount each month.
Yeah, I think this is the really tricky point, isn't it? It is, how do you get somebody to actually realise the value and the importance of saving? Because hindsight's a wonderful thing. You know, I look back when I was in my 20s and started paying into a pension. I was paying in absolutely peanuts, but then it seemed to me, you know, a substantial amount of money. And over the last decade or two, it's really grown nicely. So I'm always now banging on to younger women to sort of say, you know, you've really got to start saving as soon as you possibly can, because there is such a big gap. Because women tend to do things like take career breaks, because, you know, there's all sorts of things. You might start a family and take maternity leave, or there's these sort of other periods in life where women tend to get the burden of duty falling on them to do things like look after an elderly relative or something like that. And that can mean periods of either unemployment or periods of, say, part-time employment. And that's at those times that things like paying into a pension and other savings, indeed, you know, start to really fall by the wayside. So in a way, if a young woman can actually start paying into her pension as soon as she starts earning and really do that diligently, it can make a real difference. There is, unfortunately, tends to be a big gap of 11% between the average man and woman when both reach state retirement age, for no reason other than women tend to have career breaks, tend to maybe get less pay, and also tend to work part-time roles for some periods of their lives as well, due to these other things like maternity leave and care leave. But if a woman pays in from word go, another 1% of her pension every month, so you're talking about £35 on average, on the average salary, that can actually bridge that gap and mean that a woman retires with the same amount in her pension pot as the average man, which is, you know, that I think is worthwhile and sort of worth looking at, because it's not a huge sum, but it is just that process of actually paying that bit extra in diligently throughout your working life that can make such a difference later on.
So it's almost not just a simple thing of saying, oh, you've just started work, put aside a little money each month for your pension, and they squeak about the pension, and yeah, but it's a long way, but if you start it now, that's good. Women have almost got to do a bit more planning like that. They've not just got to say, well, okay, I've got 40 years till 60 or whatever I want to retire. It's almost that we're saying to them, but what do you want to do in that interim period? Because if you've just described it with all the hurdles that are going to come in your way, you don't see them now as hurdles. Do you want to get married? Do you want to have children? So therefore, do you think you're going to have a career break? Do you think you want to work time? Are you going to have to look after? We're actually asking them to think of all these life stages when they're actually quite young and they've perhaps not even got married yet or started to think about children.
No, absolutely. And like you say, you've got no idea really what life's going to throw at you. You don't know what course it's going to take. And that's why I think it's so easy to be thrown off track. And it's so easy for things like, I don't know, plans not happening as you thought, maybe ending up getting divorced. And then you've got the pension you thought you were maybe going to be relying on, the savings you thought you had as a couple, maybe that's gone. And you might end up having to start all over again. That can't be helped necessarily, but I think that if you do get into that sort of pattern of always putting yourself first, putting yourself number one, which as women, I think tends to be something we don't do. You know, we know that from our statistics, we've carried out research, women will often pay diligently into an ISA, say, and into their pension until they start having children. And then the focus becomes on paying into the children's junior ISA or saving for them or just paying for day-to-day family life. So women tend to then sort of take a back seat financially. And the problem is that, you know, not really a problem as such, but the problem is that we do tend to live longer, which means we do need more savings, more investments to actually see us through our later years in financial health as well. So it is just worthwhile, I think, just if you can, spending that time to make sure you're diligently and regularly paying in regular sums, so that no matter what sort of ups and downs you go through, whatever life throws at you, you've actually got your savings on track.
So even when you've been saving away and you get to, say, your first child or your first career break, for whatever the reason, rather than going, oh, well, this will be for however many years and then I will catch up. Don't fall into that, almost a trap of doing that. Just in some manner or means, keep that little bit ticking along. It may go down to, I don't know, it probably sounds stupid, £20 a week or £30 a month or £30, but keep a little going so that you've got that discipline and you've got less to catch up on, rather than lying, cut it all together, have a complete break and then pick it up, because you never know when you're going to be able to pick it up in the same way.
No, you don't. And so if you're not working at all, you can still pay into a pension. So
Okay.
your partner or husband could actually pay into the, or wife or whatever, could pay into the account for you. So you can actually keep those pension savings going. And I think that's really important to do that.
And we started with talking about can you ever be too young to start? Can you ever be too old to start? What do we say? We talked about youngsters, bringing youngsters up, but what if you get to your 50s or maybe older? Is there an age at which there's no point bothering, or is there always a point at which you can start doing something?
I think every saving, every penny you can save is good. Obviously, the older you get, the less time you've got for that money to grow. So you're not having all those benefits of compounding interest and all the rest of it, which actually means that your money accrues so nicely, almost magically over the decades. So you're going to lose out on that. So the smarter way to do it is to start early. But yeah, absolutely. It's never too late, because every pound you can put away now, especially into something like a pension or a SIP, because of the fact that you get that tax relief on top of that as well, means that you're actually saving more money. So it's still worthwhile, although the message really is, I think, obviously the more you can save and the longer you can save for, the better.
And it may be the case that if you have, perhaps you're older, you've got a little bit more wealth aside to throw at it. But what you're saying is you've got to actually throw much more at it over a shorter period of time to have any real chance of catching up.
Yeah, definitely. If you were to save, I think those figures show that if you saved X amount over the first 10 years and then nothing after that, you'd actually, say of your working life, you'd actually ultimately be better off than somebody who just saved that sort of double that amount in the last sort of 10 or 15 years of their career, because you haven't allowed that money to sort of sit there, be invested, and to grow in the same kind of way. So time is definitely on your side. But having said that, whatever saving you can make is for the greater good in the end.
Yeah, so however small an amount, it's far better than relying on being able to chuck bigger amounts at it with only 10 years to go to retirement.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, super. Thank you very much.